All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. We got week number 3 in the NFL. In today's video, we're going to be going through all of the Sunday games with the exception of the Sunday Night Football game. That will be its own video here on the channel, but we're going to go through all of the other games. I'm going to give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props, touchdown scores, things like that as well. Anything that I like in the games, we'll talk about. But as always, keep an eye on the pinned comment for all of my final plays. So I'm actually rolling with myself will be listed for free at the top of the comment section. In terms of last week, we have a positive week. We crushed Thursday Night Football, our only loss being a 0.25 unit play, so a quarter unit play, but that James Cook anytime touchdown at plus 150, we'll take that. And then in that same light, J.K. Dobbins kind of saves this video last week, the Sunday slate video, with a plus 155 touchdown score as well. Monday Night Football, don't want to talk about. We go 1 and 2, but still a decent enough week number 2 to build on what we did in week number 1, which again, week number 1, if you weren't around, we went 17 and 3. I don't know how. Week number 2, it's a little bit more 50-50, but because of our plus money plays, we pick up right around a unit. So let's keep these first 2 weeks and that momentum heading into week number 3. Before we do jump into that, guys, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Been appreciating all of the love on the videos to start the NFL season. Seriously, I don't take any of this for granted. So hit that like button if you're returning. Hit that subscribe button if you are new. Appreciate the heck out of it. So go ahead and do that. Also, drop your plays in the comments. I'm smart enough to know that there's a lot more smart people in the comments that could be helping you out find some amazing plays that we don't see or we don't find or dig up in today's video. So go ahead and give them their flowers and hit that like button if you do see a good, nice little play that you end up riding with as well. But what do you say we jump into this slate? We're starting it off with the Steelers taking on the Chargers. Right now, Steelers 1.5 point favorites, total sitting at 35.5. Steelers 2-0 on the year, as are the Chargers. And I think this might shock some people and cause some disagreement, but I'm actually not minding the Chargers here in this week. If this game gets at all offensive, I don't know if Pittsburgh has the offense to kind of keep up with the Chargers team that has now scored over 22 or more in both games. Now, you can probably jump to the argument of, well, they've played the Raiders and the Panthers, and I give you credence there, but I'd also say the Steelers defense, albeit a very, very good one, I'm not taking anything away from them there, there is a little bit of justification to say, well, look at who they've played so far. A Falcons team that if you watched that, they did not look like they were clicking, right? Falcons from week 1 to 2 were very, very different. And then they played Bo Nix and the Broncos, who put up 6 points. So both of these teams haven't necessarily, on the Chargers side, proven their offensive prowess. And then also the same thing for the Steelers, haven't proven their dominance on the defensive side based on the teams they've played. So I like the Chargers because if this game just gets at all offensive, I don't think that the Steelers really can compete. But if you're sitting there being like, well, I think it's going to be a defensive game, fine. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. My thought is that it could just get to an offensive standpoint. But if you like defense and you think that this is going to be a defensive game, then I understand why you like the Steelers here at home. But not me. I'm leaning towards the Chargers, either plus the points or on the money line. Keep an eye on the pinned comment. It's not my favorite play on the board, but it is something that I'm definitely considering. And kind of in line with that, obviously I'm leaning towards the over. I think if this over hits, the Chargers win. If this under hits, the Steelers win. I think that this is either defensive for the Steelers or somewhat offensive for the Chargers. So we shall see, but to me, I'm leaning towards the Chargers, whether it's money line or taking that 1.5, as well as the over. Keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we end up rolling with it. All right, next game up here, we're looking at Indianapolis taking on Chicago. Indy is 1-1. Chicago against the spread. Chicago is 1-0-1 against the spread on the season. Indianapolis is 0-2 straight up, and Chicago sitting at 1-1. I really haven't been impressed by Chicago. Even that week 1 win obviously was the defense that did it. Their offense does not seem to be there. Now, you can make that argument about the Colts and how they looked in week number 2. It was pretty god-awful against a bad defense in the Packers, but this Bears defense has been something that people have been talking about. And while they've been a pretty good defense in terms of DVOA rankings and whatnot, their run defense is more middle of the pack. And this is an Indianapolis team that has a very good run offense, whether it's Jonathan Taylor or Richardson, right? So I think that's going to be the distinguishing factor here. I'm going to lean towards the Colts, probably on the money line. I don't necessarily think that the points matter here. But overall, I think that this is going to be a spot in which the Colts, when they need to pick up that crucial yard, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, it's going to be the time that they can do it. And they can kind of do it over and over again, whereas I haven't been able to trust anything out of this Bears lineup. Now, I will mention this Colts rush defense is just as bad, right? And their defense isn't all that great anyway. So I don't mind a peek at the under 43.5. I've already seen some 43s out there because if both teams try to go at the other team's weakness, it is the ground game, and that's going to let the clock run. So under 43.5 is also a spot that I would consider. And then a player prop that I'm not minding is going to be DeAndre Swift here. His longest rush over 13.5 yards. I really like the value here. You can get it for -110. The reason I like it is because Indianapolis's rush defense, we already talked about it, not very good, right? I don't necessarily like Swift's overall yards number just due to the fact that I don't know how consistent this Bears offensive line can be, even though, they were talked about as better than last year and blah, blah, blah. But for them to be able to have at least one time where they break those, part the Red Seas and Swift can go and rush for a 14-yard gain, I like the idea of that happening more than I do him having to have a consistently decent game throughout the entire game. Because again, yes, bad rush defense from the Colts, but I haven't been impressed with the run game of the Bears offensively. So at least we're looking for, in this case, just one time. You can have one rush for 14 yards, have a terrible game, right? And have 10 negative rushing yards afterwards, but he cashed that one rush of over 13.5. So a player prop that I'm definitely considering there. But if I were to rank these, it's probably Colts, that Swift player prop, and then potentially that under. All right, next game we're looking at is going to be the Vikings hosting the Houston Texans here. Vikings 2.5 point. I believe that should be plus. So let's change that really quickly. Live editing. 2.5 point dogs at home. The total is sitting at 46.5 here. I think a lot of people are focusing on the offenses for these teams. And I guess through 2 weeks, fairly rightfully so, Houston has the firepower even dating back to last year. They add Diggs, they add Mixon. I get all that. Minnesota has kind of been surprising people. The run game looks okay. You have JJ. You have Sam Darnold, who through 2 weeks, crazily enough, is sparking some MVP conversations. I almost laugh saying that because it's through 2 weeks. Let's let things settle in. But overall, I think a lot of people are focusing on the offenses, whereas I'm actually looking at what we have from a defensive perspective. Both of these two teams are top 5 ranked defenses in terms of DVOA rankings, and I think that's being slept on with a total here at 46.5. So my main lean in this one is going to be taking a peek at that under 46.5. I'd love to grab an under 47.5 if it pops up. I just think it might make a little bit more sense, but overall, under 46.5 is something that I'm definitely, complacent with. Spread-wise, you can go either way here. I think I like the idea of getting points at home with the Minnesota Vikings, just because they are at home, but 2.5, if this was 3 or 3.5, would make a hell of a lot of a difference. 2.5, not so much. I will lean Vikings, but really, hopefully I'm getting through to you watching this. The under is something that I definitely like a lot more. And then a player prop, one that I took in H2H, the show that I do with Tassos, where we battle it out each and every week to see who comes out on top. I like Stephon Diggs over in his receiving yards right now. Right now, you can get his receiving yards line at 46.5. I like that spot. You can get it at -115 on most sportsbooks. This is Diggs' I believe, first time back in Minnesota. Now, Tassos brings up on H2H. It's not exactly like a revenge game or anything like that, but I like to think of it as the type of spot where CJ Stroud and the rest of the team is kind of like, hey, you used to play here. You made your hay here. Like, let's go out there and have you perform in front of this crowd that used to watch you. So, though it may not be like a negative revenge type mindset, I still think it's a let's go off type of a spot. He went off last time he played Minnesota. It was in Buffalo, though. So give me Stephon Diggs over 46.5 receiving yards. Not something that he's hit just yet. He's gone for 33 and 37 so far this year, but this is a Minnesota team that struggles against the pass. And when we take a peek at the targets, he's gotten 6 targets in each of those games. So you're telling me Stephon Diggs, with if he gets 6 targets, can't get over 46.5 yards here against his former team in his former building? I don't think so. Give me Stephon Diggs over in his receiving yards as well as that under, and then I'd consider Minnesota on the spread, but that isn't something that I'm absolutely loving right now. The other two are pretty high up there on my list, to be completely honest. So we'll see what we roll with. Keep an eye on the pinned comment. All odds and all that type of thing are subject to change, but let's keep cooking here. And actually, before we do, I almost forgot, we do have our Against the Spread Pick'em live for week number 3. 8 spots left, so it's all of the Sunday games on Sunday, I think, including the Sunday Night Football. So all of the Sunday games are in this one. No Thursday and neither of the 2 Monday Night Football ones, but all you have to do is pick each game against the spread, and obviously you rank based on how many you get correct. There's only 10 spots available, $10 entry, and we pay out the top 5 positions, which is really cool. So go ahead and check that out, guys. That link is going to be in the pinned comment, right where the picks are as well. Link in the pinned comment. $10 entry. We pay out the top 5 positions. I believe 5th and 4th just get a little bit of a kickback, but the top 3 actually make profit on that $10. So can you go and be in the top 5 out of 10 entries? We'll see. Go enter that one. That link is in the pinned comment. Now let's get back to these games here. Now, I apologize. I said let's get back to these games, but we're going to have to look at whatever this is going to be. It's going to be the Browns taking on the Giants. Definitely not one of my favorite or sexiest matchups here on the board today. Browns laying 6 points. They are 1-1 here. They take a nice win over Jacksonville, I guess. They kind of shut up some hate from week number 1. The Giants, not looking all that great, though they did have chances to, I say chances lightly, win that game against Washington. But like I said, Browns laying 6. The total sitting at 39. I think there's some 38.5s out there. Overall, I feel like this is just such a dog water game that I can tell you I'm probably not going to be betting it. But if I do, I think I might be the contrarian in the room. In fact, we'll sound the psycho alert alarm. I may take the 6 points with New York and just say, hey, everybody is thinking the Browns and whatnot. It went from everyone hated the Browns to all of a sudden, this week it's like, well, the Giants hate is more than Deshaun Watson and the Browns hate, right? But to me, it just seems like it's a little bit too many points, especially with that total at 39/38.5 to be getting a touchdown worth of points. Give me the Giants. I don't think that this is one that I end up rolling with, but yeah, just to kind of fade what everyone else might think, Giants and hell, the over, whatnot, But if anything, if I had a gun to my head, I would say Giants +6, and then I duck and run away as fast as possible. So not exactly my favorite spot, but that is where I'm leaning here in this spot. Now, this game coming up may actually have some juice to it. We have the Saints taking on the Eagles. Right now, Saints at home, 2.5-point favorites. The total's up there, 49.5. Most likely no A.J. Brown yet again, so that's obviously a massive hit to this Eagles offense. They end up losing last week against the Falcons. Was that on Monday Night Football? Was it? 22-21. Their defense just looked like Swiss cheese. And this Saints team, though I'm not going to sit here and say that this Saints team is fully legit or anything like that, they've looked incredible. 47, 44 points scored, and it's funny that their last game last season, they scored 48. So this is 3 straight games for the Saints team scoring 45 or 44 plus points. I just can't get to the Eagles side. So I'm not trying to crown the Saints king or say that they're legit or they're real, because I think there's still a lot of football to be played during the season. But based on that Philadelphia defense, and especially that drive at the end of the game for Atlanta when it just looked like they could have just cakewalked it up the field, I can't help but potentially lean towards the Saints here, especially with no A.J. Brown. Like, that's going to be his force in which, say the Saints do go out there and put up a bunch of points, right? No A.J. Brown limits that Eagles offense, even if it's that much, to a level that I don't think they keep up with the Saints, and they're not going to be able to make the big stops, which New Orleans defense has looked okay so far. Now, Carolina and then Dallas, when Dallas wasn't clicking, sure, you can make your argument that maybe their defenses looked even better than they actually are, but overall, again, I kind of wanted to get to the Eagles. I have a future for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl this year. I'd love them to win this game after losing last week, but just not enough there for me to get there. So give me the Saints here, as well as I think I would lean over, because if the Saints continue to do their thing, I don't think this Eagles defense is really going to stop them all that much. They do have playmakers, but even still, say the Eagles do get the ball a lot or do cause turnovers, this is still a good Eagles offense. Missing A.J. Brown, but still a very good Eagles offense. So I like the over as well as the Saints here. I wish I was on the Eagles, just can't seem to get there in this one. All right, moving on, we got the Tampa Bay Bucks taking on the Denver Broncos. Bucks laying 6.5 points, so it is within a touchdown. This has been bouncing back and forth between 6.5 and 7, so obviously something to keep in mind there. The total is sitting at 40. Now, Denver has not looked great, right? They scored 20 points against Seattle, in which I even feel like they might have been lucky to score 20, but they turned the ball over a ton. And then they played the Steelers and only scored 6 points and turned the ball over a ton. I'd be scared to give this Bucks team additional possessions throughout the game. So for that reason, I'm going to be looking at a high-powered offense here. Yes, they only scored 20 last week. That was against a pretty good Detroit team. I'm going to lay the points with the Bucks, but I'll tell you what I like even more. Leaning towards the Bucks team total over 23.5. Now you don't have to worry about, okay, well, are they going to cover that 6.5 point spread or anything like that? Like, I think if they get to 24 points, and hell, the Broncos could even go out there and score 40 and win the game outright and have some more NFL craziness happen, right? But we don't need to worry about that as long as the Bucks do their job offensively. And like I said, I do think that this is a mediocre, if not bad, defense on the Broncos side of things. They've played okay. They've looked okay. Pat Surtain, even if he takes away, say, Mike Evans or Godwin, it's like, well, the other one's still out there and available. So overall, I do think that this is a spot in which that 6.5 may be too much. It's not enough for me to get to the Broncos side of things, but what I like is Tampa Bay going out there and doing their job and scoring a bunch of points, so that even if the Broncos decide to step it up and play well offensively and not turn the ball over a lot, we could even still have a spot in which the Bucks cover. the Bucks score a lot, but they don't cover that touchdown. So I guess I'll also lean towards the over 40, but my main play in this one, if you have missed out on what I've been saying, definitely considering and liking for -105 right now on ESPN, that Bucks team total over 23.5. All right, next up, we have the Titans taking on the Packers here. Titans, 2.5-point favorites at home. Total sitting at 36.5. Listen, I think this Titans defense may be sneaky good. I don't think this Green Bay defense is all that good. Green Bay last week scoring, was it 16 against Indianapolis? So I don't even think that their offense is all that great. Now, they do have injuries, including their quarterback, which can kind of contribute to that, so I get it. But I think that the Tennessee team can run the ball. They're actually a sneaky, decent rush DVOA ranked team, and the Green Bay Packers are dreadful against the run on the ground. So both of these teams, I think that they can, not even both these teams. I do think Tennessee is going to go in with the mindset of, okay, let's keep this low scoring. Let's punch them in the face. Let's run up the middle. Even though they have, Pollard and Spears, I still think that this is a spot in which they can get some yardage on the ground. We saw that in both games so far against the Packers, whether it was, run plays on the outside or run plays up the middle. Maybe this case, it'll be run plays on the outside given the running back personnel. But overall, I like the under as well as Tennessee. Now, do I love the fact that it's 2.5 points? Well, compared to what it was at 3, yes. But this is probably a spot where I'd pay the juice and go Tennessee money line. But I don't mind that under. Like I said, this Green Bay team seems like they're a fast-paced team and all that. But regardless, like if this is going to transition into a run type of a game, and then on the backside, Tennessee's defense is, like I said, sneaky good. I don't see how this game gets to a lot of points within it. So give me the under 36.5, and let's hope Tennessee can really punch them in the face and run the rock with, again, the personnel that doesn't necessarily line up with that. But if they can get these guys in space and whatnot, I like Pollard, I like Spears. So give me Tennessee as well as the under. All right, guys, before we do get into the rest of the games, I wanted to shout out Underdog Fantasy. If you're not on Underdog yet, you are missing out on some serious fun action for the NFL season. And right now, new customers are going to get a Caleb Williams free square and then also a CeeDee Lamb free square as well. Caleb Williams, 0.5 total yards. He could pass, he could run. CeeDee Lamb, same exact thing. He can receive it, he can run. It's just total yards, and obviously you're going to cash that one. But that's not all. That's not all. You're also going to get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus if you use the link in the pinned comment. So go ahead and check out Underdog, guys. Again, that link is in the pinned comment. I'm firing on Underdog plenty during this NFL season. If you don't know what it is a player prop app in which you pick more or less on these players based on their set projection. So for these, we're obviously going to click that more than button, right? So go ahead and check it out, guys. Again, up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus as well. Sounds like money to me. Go check it out. That link is in the pinned comment. Let's get back to these games. Now, why is it that both times I've said let's get back to these games, we have arguably the two worst games on the slate today? This one's Raiders taking on the Panthers. Raiders 5.5-point favorites, total at 40.5. This is probably another one, much like I guess the Giants game and the Browns game, that I might just say, hey, let's take the points with the Panthers. Like, can they really be that bad? Raiders are coming off of what probably seems like a celebratory playoff type win for them against that Ravens team. So yeah, let's see if we can catch them in a bad spot here. Take the 5.5 points with Carolina, who only have 13 points through 3 games this season. I don't think this one makes the final card or anything like that, but I wouldn't be caught dead taking the Raiders -5.5 either. Like, maybe they're your survivor pool pick or something like that. Sure, that's all cool, but I don't think that they blow out Carolina. And even if they do blow them out, it's like, well, I don't think that I would predict that or want to put money on that, right? Now, the total sitting at 40.5. This could be a spot in which I'm like, well, let's go ahead and do whatever the opposite of what everyone else probably thinks, and that's going to be a low-scoring game. I still don't think that either one of these offenses is all there. At least when we talked about the Browns and the Giants, there's some damn playmakers on those teams. So I will lean towards the under in this spot. But again, let's be honest, guys. Some of these games are just absolute bleh. We don't need to be putting our hard-earned bread on it. But you know what? If you are, more power to you. You're a psycho. I love you more for it. So yeah, if you're rolling with this one, go right ahead. I'm not going to try and stop you. But I think there's better spots this week. All right, next up, we got Seahawks taking on the Dolphins, so no Tua in this one. That's a huge hit for the Dolphins. That's definitely going to be a reason for me to stay away from Miami just to kind of see how they do. But I don't know if I'm jumping for joy or jumping all over Seattle here. They played against New England, who also didn't have Tua, and just not the best of offensive, right? And they go to overtime with them. Laying 5 points as Seattle just doesn't seem like the move for me here, so probably stick away from the spread in this one. I don't mind the under. we saw an under game with the Dolphins playing against the Bills, and for some of that game, they had Tua, right? And the Bills, obviously a better offense than the Seahawks. So if that one kind of hits the under this line, I don't see a reason why we would be jumping to an over here. So I'm also going to lean towards the under 41.5. I think the Seahawks probably can win this game, but like there's so many playmakers on Miami's team that it just makes me stick away from them because again, like Hill, Waddle, the running backs, if they're healthy, like there's enough guys on the team that can probably make quarterbacks look better than they actually are. And this isn't like a amazing Seahawks defense or even an amazing offense, right? So to me, it's kind of almost like a win in and of itself to stick away from this one, if that makes sense. Now, this should be a game. We have the Cardinals taking on the Lions. This is by far and away one of the better games that we even have to discuss in today's video. Now, Arizona has been a great passing team. You look at DVOA rankings and whatnot, offensively and passing specifically, they're crushing it, right? Now, they do struggle. The Detroit kind of struggles against the run, which is a little bit interesting here. So if Arizona Detroit struggles against the pass, but they're really good against the run. And what has opened up the passing for the Cardinals so far this season is giving James Conner a decent workload. Now, Detroit is very good against the run. So if Arizona can't establish the run, I don't know if they pass the ball as well as they have. Does that make sense? Like obviously the run opening up the pass game. Now you can make the same exact argument for Arizona in terms of where they're good at and what they might rank on. I think Detroit may have to try and run the ball, but Arizona's defense actually been decent in that spot as well. So I think I look at an under 52. I think you can get 52.5, under 52 here because both teams should try to run the ball. I don't think they have much luck, but it's still kind of been the cog of what starts their offenses. So unless they make massive changes and game plans and whatnot and make sure to just emphasize pass, that could kill us there. But if they don't do that and they try to stick to the run against two run defenses that should hold their own, I don't mind the idea of not many chunk plays happening, the total staying below that 52.5. Now, when it comes to a spread, I think I'm going to lean towards Detroit. Arizona, good team. I think they're going to be a very fun team to watch, but I could see this game going similar, not with the amount of points that were scored, but similar to how Buffalo played Arizona, which is, yeah, Arizona looked pretty good, but when push came to shove, they actually showed up, and Arizona's probably riding somewhat high off of that crazy win against the Rams, right? And Detroit probably wants to bounce back after that tough loss against Tampa Bay. So give me the Lions here catching. I think you can probably get them at -3, at -2.5. I've seen a lot of threes out there right now. In fact, we have this wrong. It's actually +2.5. Hopefully that doesn't confuse anyone. But I think you can get them within a field goal. I like that. But yeah, that under is definitely something that I'm considering in this spot because again, I think both teams are going to try to run the ball because that's what sets up their passing. And I don't think they're going to have the biggest of successes doing that. All right, what should be another good game here, we have the Cowboys taking on the Ravens. Now, both of these teams went through just like shocking stuff last week, like, stuff that you didn't exactly see coming, right? The Ravens, who were nearly 9 point, I think I saw 9 at one point, but 8.5 point favorites when it closed over the Raiders, they end up losing the game outright by 3. Dallas, who was a touchdown favorite over the New Orleans Saints, who we've talked about plenty, right? Actually lose 44-19. So I don't think that I end up touching this game from a side or total perspective. I do have a couple leans here that I'll give you, but overall, it's like what to expect out of two teams that got shell-shocked last week, right? Maybe you just look at the team and say, hey, they're at home. They got more embarrassed. They bounce back now. They're getting a point at home. Sure, that's probably what my lean would be in terms of looking at Dallas, right? I have no real clue where the total is going to go. We have two decent defenses, but, Dallas's defense against the run has been pretty piss poor. The Baltimore offense has looked pretty damn good. Like, a lot of question marks here. I think one thing that I'll lean towards, and sure, if we want to go and lean towards an over, go for it. I don't think that I have a play much on the total, but one thing I don't mind is looking at Derrick Henry to score a touchdown. Now, right now, this is -130 on FanDuel. I'm going to lock that in as soon as I can, so this is probably going to be one of the final plays that you'll see. But -130 on FanDuel, it's actually -175 on DraftKings, so I think we're getting some really good value. And again, this is a Dallas team that just does not seem to be able to stop the run. They're a very bad run defense. Look at what Alvin Kamara did to them last week. 20 attempts, 115 yards for 3 touchdowns. Derrick Henry isn't the same sort of dynamic running back, but doesn't that just show that they're not a very good run defense overall? So yeah, I like Dallas. I'll lean towards the over, but my main play is probably just saying, hey, Derrick Henry, go punch one in for us. If they get a goal line opportunity, he could probably walk in backwards. So yeah, I like that spot for this game. All right, last game on today's slate. Again, guys, we're going to have specific game every single week, specific game videos for Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, and Monday Night Video. Tons of content on the channel, so make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. If you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 24. You made it 24 minutes and change into the video. But we're looking at the Rams taking on the 49ers here, and this is a spot in which I can get both sides, so I'll admit that. But I think that this San Francisco offense can get going here, even with no C-Mac. This Rams defense has not looked like it's been all that great. Now, is that skewed by last week's 41 points allowed to the Cardinals? Sure, but there's a lot of playmakers on the San Francisco lineup, and the last time they played, they end up losing to this Rams team. So maybe there's a little bit of a revenge factor as well. 7 points, sure, it's a lot to lay, but I think this is a decent spot for San Francisco to bounce back from a loss last week. And you notice that's a lot that we're kind of looking at here, right? A lot of bouncing back and that type of thing because, you know, water finds its level. The 49ers lose 17-23 to a Vikings team in which they were, I think, 4 or 5 point favorites last week. I like them to be able to score by outside a touchdown here, win by outside a touchdown score against this Rams team. Now, the total sitting at 44. I think that tells me that this is probably a decently high-scoring game, which would also kind of pay aid to the idea of the 49ers being able to get through this Rams defense. I'm going to lean towards the over, but it might be another spot in which I consider a San Fran team total over, and that's kind of how we can make a hybrid in a sense of both taking them on the spread as well as the over. We can just cut our variables and worry about San Fran scoring on this defense. So that's definitely something that I'm considering as well. And guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. I appreciate all of the support, like I already mentioned, on these NFL videos. We're putting a ton of work into these as well as the MLB, the WNBA. Even as crazy it is to say, getting ready for the NBA season, we got tons of content on the way. Hitting that subscribe button will be one of the better things you do today. Promise you that. But anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.